Right, welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. It's time for Checkpoint now, and we're going to be discussing the issue of terrorism and Operation Usalama Watch. Is this being done in a way that is respectful of human rights? Is it even fair to be questioning that? On which side do you stand? It almost seems like now the lines have been drawn, the battle lines have been drawn, and you need to take a stand on this issue. Please do share your thoughts with us on our discussion. Remember, the hashtag is Checkpoint on Twitter. On SMS, you can send us your thoughts. The number is 22155. My panel tonight, Atieno Ndomo, will not be able to be joining us. She's had a family emergency and we'll allow her to deal with that. But we have Professor Gitile Naituli, who's a public policy analyst, Senator Hassan Omar Hassan from Mombasa. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. We will get to Kithure Kindike's statement in just a moment, but I want to reference there's been a lot of articles that are written for and against what is happening in Isli and what's happening in the country generally at this moment. And I'd like to reference Barack Muluka's article yesterday. This is what he had to say. Terrorism is a form of warfare. This particular style of combat belongs to the guerrilla docket of engagement. They are not ordinary criminals. They are war criminals belonging to an invading army. It's hard to tell who is Al-Shabaab and who is not. I'll start with you, Senator. What do you think of that?
I mean, you see, you picked Barack Muluka. It's a very light sample, because I saw the newspapers yesterday. Anybody who toiled for democratic freedoms in this country, the human rights cadre, or in terms of the belief in human rights, anybody, forget about an English teacher like Barack, Maina Kiai, Father Dolan, Kwamchetsi Makoha, who is usually satirical. You read the commentaries today, Makau Mutua, Professor Nyong'o, Kathy Kilonzo, anybody who represents a certain viewpoint about a just and equitable society, constitutionalism, has tried to tamper with the rhetoric and try to offer solutions that are pegged on our constitution. So therefore, I do believe that sometimes terrorism is an invisible enemy. But as all these writers have acknowledged, only intelligence policing that is based on an investment in intelligence and building the confidence and the credibility of organs of national security is what will in the long run, and a strict adherence to the constitution, what will in the long run be able to resolve this issue. As he puts it rightly, it's not a conventional warfare. And winning warfares that are not conventional are won in theaters of war, like the hearts and minds, about integration rather than isolation, about the Bill of Rights, about investing in proactive security.
Do you believe the Bill of Rights have been violated in Operation Usalama Watch?
Every top human rights actor in this country and outside this country are unanimous about one thing. There has been wholesale condemnation, wholesale blanket victimization of members of the Somali community and members of the Muslim faith. And they've pointed it towards it being a very dangerous trend. Raila Odinga, the alpha and omega in terms of Kenya's democratic struggle, as we now have. James Orengo, anybody who understands the constitution, who understands the importance of a liberal constitution that safeguards the individual rights, knows that victimization in a blanket form does not have any place in our constitution.
Professor, you have a different view. What do you think of this whole non-conventional war that we're fighting against terrorism in the country?
I think what Muluka has done there, he is trying to define what really the problem is for us as regards the situation that we find ourselves in. But I think we need to remove emotions from this discussion in order for us to really see the problem for what it is. This problem has been created over the last 34 years, or the 24 years under Moi, and then the 10 years under Kibaki and Raila. We allowed an influx of an undocumented aliens into the country. And of course, nobody was planning to go to Somalia, which personally I'm opposed to that, to the Kenyans being in Somalia, because I don't think they will accomplish their mission. You can't accomplish your mission when you are fighting people who want to die. You can never win against anyone who want to die. So it's an impossible mission. And in my opinion, they should be back here and protecting the border. But having said that, is when you allowed these people in here, we have placed the current government between the devil and the deep blue sea. There is no method known to man, and the people in opposition to what they are doing, they are not giving us an alternative method of knowing who is a Kenyan and who is an undocumented alien.
Okay. All right, before you get there, because we have somebody here from the minority, what are your alternative solutions to this issue?
First and foremost, the professor is mixing two different issues. Aliens are not necessarily terrorists. These are men and women who've been fleeing situations of conflict. This is what I call stereotyping. And when we speak as representatives of some of these people, we are told we are emotional. We are not emotional. We have continued to, in this country, some of us have continued to argue and to be able to be as faithful as possible to the Constitution.
So
notwithstanding who that person is, be it a person under a Mungeke, so to speak, suspect, or whoever else, which have stood for human rights. The alternative method is very simple. First and foremost, this battleground is about the indoctrination and radicalization. You have to challenge the narrative first and foremost that this war is a war against Islam, and be able to isolate the criminal elements from the larger Islam. That said and done, you need a co-constituency of Muslims. I can tell you for a fact, it's easier to reach out to people from within their midst, because they understand each other, they understand the culture.
So are you saying this? Are you saying this did not happen? There's been no consensus or sort of discussion had?
Absolutely. I think there has been no concerted effort that tries to get a solution that is
Allow me
quite
to
inclusive.
to stop you there, because a lot of what you're talking about is very long term, and of course changing the mindsets is not something that can happen immediately. And some would say your method is all well and good, but right now, short term, we need to get people who shouldn't be in the country out as quickly as possible while we work on the methods that you're suggesting.
We've had hundreds of thousands of aliens in this country for a long time. The security situation has not been in as much jeopardy. I want to agree with the professor on one issue. We have gone into Somalia, supposedly to stop the incursion, or to stop them crossing the border and causing insecurity. It has escalated the situation. It has given a motivation for some of these people to get the narrative.
So should we pull out of Somalia?
I think there must be a phased withdrawal from Somalia. Let me just link it up to let's say what the US has tried to do to ensure that they have security at home. It needed a liberal Democrat, a person who believes in certain ideals, social values. Because right now what we're seeing here in Kenya is also we have people who are very right-wing. That you see how Kindiki right now is trying to have a right-wing strategy with us or against us. And phased withdrawal, like we saw, sorry, Professor, just to finish this point, phased withdrawal like we saw in Afghanistan, like we saw in Iraq, so that eventually the solution in Somalia rests with the Somalis and nobody else.
I have a different reason why I think we should pull out, not phased withdrawal, just pull out. The reason is that Somalia really has never known peace, ever, since it was created. When the Italians were in Italian Somaliland, when the British was in British Somaliland, they never controlled Somalia. When Siad Barre was in charge of Somalia, they used to mock him. They used to call him the mayor of Mogadishu because he never controlled Somalia. So there is a problem of people who don't understand what peace is. In fact, I had
So are you saying Somalia is a lost cause, Professor?
It's just a lost cause, in my opinion. And you will see, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but the truth is Somalia will never stabilize.
Okay.
Never.
But
because those people are just used to war. You see, I had an interaction with Somali who had become a young man, I'm thinking about 24. He had come from England. So he came here, I met him at the university. And we were having a discussion, and then he told me this place is really strange. It's so quiet here.
But do we not owe it to our neighbors to sort of ensure that there is peace in that region?
I agree. We should
because
try
even
to
as
do
you
it.
say, if what you say is true, that they will never achieve peace, then we always remain at risk if we don't go in there and do something about it.
We do. We remain at risk.
Sort of be your own brother's keeper?
The best way to deal with them is, I want to agree with the senator, is to let them sort out their problem and to guard, protect our borders, to make sure that they don't come here and import the chaos to our place.
But with a totally different motivation, I totally have hope in Somalia. I believe Somalia will stabilize. I believe that we must never give up on Somalia. They are part and parcel of the East African community. They are part and parcel ethnically of some of their relatives in Kenya. And I think the word never is a word you must never use.
Maybe never is taking
so
it
I
too
think,
far.
I think, I think
I should say it's challenging.
Okay, all right. At least on that, we have both your views regarding that. Barack Maluka, and I know you've also said this, so I'd like you to elaborate on this, says, well, we didn't expect this operation to happen in any other part other than Isli. Professor, you agree?
Yeah, I think I want to agree on Barack on that, because, you know, we like, a lot of us like running away from some facts that are totally unavoidable.
And
we
what are those
had a
facts?
Mungiki problem in this country, okay? And the Mungiki was really becoming a menace. The police did not mount an operation in Omambe or in Kakamega. They went to Muranga, they went to Kiambu, and they went to Nyeri, because that's where the Mungikis were. Now we have a problem here, Al-Shabaab problem, okay? Al-Shabaab, the fact that we cannot avoid, even if we tried to, is majority Al-Shabaab are Somalis. That's a fact. Now, Al-Shabaab sympathizers, they are likely to be in the majority Somalis. Of course, you may find some people of Arab origin also sympathizing with Al-Shabaab. So if the government had to get an handle on Al-Shabaab sympathizers, the only place to do the operation, it would have to be easily northeastern or Mombasa. It will be unreasonable for them to go to Omambe or to go to Kakamega or to attempt, in my opinion, to go to Londua.
Senator?
So what are the, you know, that's why, Professor, this Maki Kenyatta strategy, because I must say it's a Kenyatta Kibaki strategy. I think we've been vehemently opposed to this strategy. And I think even as a coalition's code, the reason we have stood against this strategy is because we believed we had a comprehensive program towards the stabilization of Kenya, including addressing the root causes. This is an overgeneralization. I'm not sure what you're looking for in Isli. Are you looking for aliens? Are you looking for terrorists? I can tell you for a fact, if they were terrorists, they probably have left by now. So there is a different way if you're dealing with aliens. You see, I think what happened is the authority of the state had been challenged. Constantly, they kept with this constant bravado about how this rhetoric, how we're going to bring peace. Now, the bravado, which shouldn't be coming from a guy like Kindiki, he should show some reasonableness. That's why we were voted in as young people to get off from that traditional, you know, village kind of elder.
So, do you think there's that thinking that all Somalis are terrorists?
That's what it is likely to do. So, I think if you want to pursue crime, because we're pursuing crime. So you have to have intelligence so that it guides you to who is the manufacturer of those bombs, who is the Al-Shabaab recruits, where are the Al-Shabaab cells. You do not go and, you know, create some kind of a generalization.
So you don't think they understand the context of what's happening or who is behind the terrorist activities?
This is just about the state trying to regain its authority, constant attacks, constantly, you know, being undermined in terms of its own authority to protect this country. So what do you do in the circumstances? You have to show brevity. And to show that bravery, you build a public opinion, and I'm sure they're going to run documentaries here, which I'm already aware of, that tends to continue to stroke the embers of hatred and religious sentiment.
Professor?
I think that's why I think we need to really narrow and look at this problem rationally. I think the state is pursuing a two-way strategy here. These are not criminals. I think we are wrong in definition, and if we don't define them properly, I think we'll have a problem.
How should we define
criminals? Don't go kill people without a motive. Okay, these people, they may have a motive of liberating Somalia or whatever it is they are doing, but they're just shooting people. So this Mulak is right here is low intensity warfare. That's what has been defined on as low intensity warfare. Now the strategy the government is following is first remove the undocumented aliens from the general Kenyan population. Once they are removed, it's very easy to follow Hassan and know his home if I suspect that he is a criminal, or that he is with the And this is why the government now is following this strategy. First, know who the Kenyans are with the sanctity. And then after that, follow now whoever it is that takes law in their own hands and commits the crime.
Do you agree, though? Do you think there's a generalization that now that is starting to happen with the operation, that all Somalis are terrorists, whether Kenyan Somali or non-Somali, that all persons practicing Muslim faith are terrorists? Do you think there's that generalization?
I really don't think so. I think there is an overreaction here from the Somali community, and also an overreaction also, I believe, from the Muslim community. Because you see, I've seen, I saw the last bomb in Isli, and I could clearly identify one of the victims was a Somali. Okay, the overgeneralization comes here. You see, when the Mungiki was under attack, the Kikuyus didn't go a press conference and things that the Kikuyus are being targeted. Okay, so I think there's some people are being crime babies.
This is totally different from Mungiki. What we saw in Mungiki was a strategy of execution. We have also seen that strategy of execution, which is totally different. What is happening right now? The same people did not go to Kiambu and Muranga and tell all Kikuyus to come onto trucks so that we go and screen you later as to who is a Mungiki and who is not, who is putting on 2 underwears. That's how they used to identify Mungikis. So I think, you missed the point in terms of your comparison. And I think what happens is we are elected representatives. And I happen to have a constituency that also is Somali, is Muslim. And we don't overreact. We are elected leaders who take responsibility.
What of those senators that say...
We take responsibility for the incursion on the rights of our people,
Senator,
for the dehumanization of our people. And if there is no overreaction when you round up 400-500 members of a community and put it in a warlike concentration camp, it's not an overreaction. It is simply a reaction.
Senator, Senator, there are those that
discourage.
say, and we've also had them on our Twitter feed saying that they don't see the same robust reaction from leaders such as yourself. For example, when, shall we say, those who are not Muslims? I don't want to make us... Yes, when churches are being attacked.
When the church was burnt after the murder of the Sheikh Rogo, the second Rogo, Hassan Joho and I, governor, and I, were the ones, ask the Salvation Church, we were the ones who went there, condemned the act, and as a county contributed towards the rebuilding of the church. When the Likoni Joy of Christ Church was attacked, we condemned it. We went to the hospital. We grieved with the families. I came to the Senate and asked for an entire adjournment. It was a Sunday. I came to the Senate on Tuesday, asked for a motion of adjournment, and discussed that insecurity for 1.5 hours, longer than any other time. After that, we were with William Ruto, again, Deputy President, at the Joy in Jesus Church, in Mumbai, in Likoni, where we made our contributions as a county, together with the national government's contribution towards everything. And before that, I was with the senators. I proposed the idea of going to see Baby Satrino Senior, together with Amos Swako, Moses Wetangula. I think reasonably we have done what we must do.
Okay, here's one for you, Prof. And we have a tweet here from Ali Zakaria who says, most Somali refugees run away from Al-Shabaab. Branding them Al-Shabaab is quite unfortunate.
Well, I agree with that opinion. And this ties really to what the senator was saying. The problem the government is having is simply identifying who is an Al-Shabaab sympathizer within the Somali community in Isili and who is not. And the reason why the government didn't round up the Kikuyus in Kiambu or Muranga was because they didn't expect some Kikuyus are undocumented within Muranga or within Kiambu. So they knew exactly.
So difficult to tell. Who's who.
So the
because and here's we go. Here, while we talk about that, allow me to say something, Professor. And that would be saying that perhaps those who, if you can tell who's who, And
If
you can
tell
remove the
Kenyans,
Somalis who,
if you can
who
get
are,
the Kenyans
who are Somalis
first.
and the Kenyan Somalis.
Yes.
All right. Here's the thing for you, though. Not every Somali is a terrorist or has been suspected of it. Elgiva Bwire was convicted for a life sentence.
No.
He was not Somali. Sylvester Opio Eke Osodo, whose whereabouts remain unknown, was questioned over the Machakos bus station grenade attack. Jermaine Grant was a 29-year-old British national. Samantha Luthwaite as well.
Yeah.
But then when we start to create this impression that, you know, we're removing the Kenyan Somalis from the Somalis.
No,
Yet
this is where
the evidence shows that not everybody who's a Somali is engaged in.
The point of what is happening in 15. The Al-Shabaab is using the refugee camps to transit, okay, to transit their men through as refugees.
But some of these were not refugees. Elgiva Bwire was not a refugee.
No. Well, I agree with you. I want to agree.
Osodo was not a refugee.
These people.
Yeah, Jermaine Grant was not a refugee.
You know, when we went to Somalia, what the Al-Shabaab said on social media, they said that the Kenyans are chasing the tail of Al-Shabaab in Somalia. The end is in Nairobi. That's what the Al-Shabaab said.
And you believe the head is in Isli?
The end is, wow, it has to be. If it has to be in Nairobi, the only likely place it has to be is in Zile or northern Kenya. But
you see where the danger, you see the delicate situation we are put in as a leadership. It is these types of opinions that have proliferated the entirety of this Kenyan society that we have to contend with. Everybody is expressing utmost ignorance on this matter. Why am I saying that? I again refer to the commentaries. You know, I'm so elated by men and women who have toiled for this country's democracy, equality, minority rights, everybody else to enjoy equal protections under the Constitution. They have been unanimous. But we have a very pedestrian kind of view that thinks that it is okay when challenged in terms of with the state of fear, that you can now victimize a group of people because there's a manufactured consent, a public opinion that is fairly receptive. Right. So I think whether justice is never popularity discourse, and I do not believe that any leadership in this country must allow itself to be moved into an emotive kind of strategy that victimizes and in fact compound rather than elevate the problem.
What we are dealing with here is failure of government. Failure of government, failure to control the Kenyan borders. That's what we are dealing here. This government is in an extremely difficult position because for over 24 years, we didn't worry who came into this country. Now we have a problem. I mean, when you are deporting 82 people, surely, where was the immigration? Where was the police? Because we are told 82 were deported the other day to Somalia. Where was the police? Where was the government? So there has been a government failure. Now, if we don't correct that failure, we will not enjoy the rights Hassan is saying that we are entitled to.
All right,
and be unable to enjoy.
All right. On that note, I'd like us to play a clip just now, because as we round up our discussion, this sort of tends to be the rhetoric that we're seeing in the country at the moment, and I'd like to hear your reactions on that. We have that clip of the Deputy President William Ruto as well as Senate Majority Leader Kithure Kindiki on this whole issue of how to deal with terrorism in the country. Watch.
Tumesema ya kwamba wale magaidi na wakora na wahalifu wote tutakabiliana na wao ana kwa ana. Hakuna mjadala, hakuna mazungumzo, hakuna mambo ya kupembelezana.
And on this one, there is no middle ground. Hakuna mambo ya katikati. You are either with Kenyans or you are with the terrorists.
Senator?
William Ruto is fairly on point. He has said we will go for the terrorists. And what he needs to do is then to moderate the strategy to a point where it takes care of the rights and the freedoms and the liberties and the broader, context of a nation state, including upholding the constitution of this republic, which is sought to protect. Kindiki is just getting extreme. Just forget about it.
I think, I admire the senator because your position on human rights is really very well known in this country. And that is admiration. Now, what Kindiki is saying here, he's saying there is no middle ground. I think that reminds me of Duale's statement, which I thought is extremely unfortunate. Being the majority leader, to me, I think he is number 3 he could easily become the president of this republic.
Number 3 is actually the speaker.
Well, yeah, I know that. Legal is the speaker, but he's the leader of majority.
Okay.
He is therefore a national leader by any respect. He said that he was speaking for his people. Just like the deputy president or the president would speak for their people. You know, where is our nationalism? Where is the Kenyaniness? So what I'm saying here, the senator is complaining, and I can agree with his complaining completely, because we are kind of forgetting who we are. We are Kenyans. Duale is as much responsible for me as he is responsible for those who elected him in that position that he owns. But once he says a statement like that, he has set us apart. He has already identified the people that he is supposed to speak for, as opposed to the Kenyans. I think we really need to start building ourselves.
No, it's interesting that you say the people he's supposed to speak for as opposed to the Kenyans,
Yes,
meaning the people he speaks for.
The professor also has to appreciate one thing.
Uh-huh.
This country is an amalgamation of interests and various formations.
Yeah.
This is not a homogeneous society. You don't play the ignorance that you do not realize that political leaders are elected largely to represent interests. If you see why the cutthroat competition for power is largely based on interests. Mm-hmm. You win, you get your people into cabinet, you get them into places of power and positions of responsibility. Mm-hmm. Let's not play ignorance. And people then eventually have those interests, no matter how disturbing those interests might be, or how alien they are to you.
When
those interests, because I had a constitutional obligation. I was not fighting for Mungiki. I was fighting for the constitution.
I agree with you.
I was fighting for against extrajudicial killings.
Didn't Duale join you in that?
He was not in the commission, and I do not hold that against him.
As a political leader, he was in parliament.
I do not hold it against him, because you see, life is dynamic. Yeah. There are points where I had that responsibility, so I could articulate those views. That's why I find it a bit simplistic for a leader of Kindiki's stature, who is a constitutional lawyer, who has trained young minds and souls out there who look up to him, to start going on a rhetoric that ends us nowhere.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like us to close our discussion now. What is the way forward? As Bigwig on Twitter says, is Hassan suggesting the undocumented Somalis be left to live in Isli? What is the way forward? We'll start with you, Hassan Omar. Should we continue with Operation Usalama Watch? If so, how should it be done in a way that makes
stop the victimization of blanket condemnation of communities, and ensure that the strategies are ascribed to the broad standards of the rule of law.
Should aliens be allowed to live in the country, or should they be sent back home?
Aliens should be sent back through a process that we can all say is clearly fair, in a process that does not appear in the manner that it is to be a strategy of victimization.
How would the process be fair?
You see,
in your opinion?
Let me tell you, the Somali community had met partly, the presidency and the deputy.
Yes.
And they had agreed to form a partnership. That partnership was supposed now to track and follow those who do not belong here. They should have allowed that citizen participation. Probably will have taken a week or two more. Maybe it will have, but it will have had the legitimacy. And I think they had gone to State House just a day or two earlier to commit themselves to work with the government, and that commitment was a renewal of the fact that they acknowledged they are Kenyans. But I want to say one thing as I wind up. You see, in this country, we have a country that is under a constitution that has a diverse range of interests and peoples. And some of us who have been elected to represent some of these interests, whether minority, whether majoritarian, will ascribe to these very, very cardinal and foundational principles of the Constitution, and the Constitution is very clear.
Okay, all right. Sorry to cut you, but we are running out of time. Professor, your final comments on this way forward?
They need to remove the undocumented aliens from the Nigerian population. They need to have a program of fencing off the refugee camps, because they have become basically the entry point to the country. And second, I believe this government, after this operation, they ought to form a commission. The commission needs to stand with the people and be naturalized through this corruption that we have been engaging in, and trace these people down. And that way, there will be no victimization of any Kenyan.
Okay.
Once we can put our finger on those of us who are law-abiding and they are Kenyans, genuine Kenyans, away from all this infiltration that is coming. Second, the government needs to declare a total war on corruption.
Okay.
This war is as much a war fought by corruption as much it is by total negligence by the previous regimes.
Okay.
Can I
we
just
have to
also just
leave
one
it at that
thing
for now.
about
Just
the
30
causes?
seconds, yes.
The causes that the court has been talking about, the dispossession, the marginalization, the land grabbing and cost. You must deal with all the factors so that people then feel the ownership to this country. It's not only corruption of those who take a little bit of money to let people in. It's the corruption of the elite that has gotten this country to the position that it is in.
Okay.
But we will not accept to be taken back to the 1960s.
All right. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Your views are mirrored by David Mutayo on Twitter, who says there's a countrywide feeling that the innocent are being victimized. Should we start a national dialogue? Some food for thought as we wind up our conversation right now. But keep your thoughts coming in. We'll continue to share them throughout this live newscast. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.